Hello once again, I'm Extra Life, and behind me is Different Fur Studios. I'm here with my friend Michael.
Hi.
And together we are Dialectics. Today we are doing a little bit of mixing. What are we doing today?
Well, we recorded an album, we tracked it between your place and my place, swapping back and forth. We have about 10 songs, and now we're going to some studios to mix it. These studios have a nicer room that's acoustically treated, they have a lot more equipment, they have really nice speakers, so you can really hear what we're doing and make it sound good.
So far it's sounding very good. I thought we could bring you along and show you a little bit of what we're doing, the gear that we're using, and why we're doing it. So let's take a look at this lovely SSL 4048 console. The console, or mixing desk, is the centerpiece of any recording studio, and solid-state logic, or SSL, particularly their 4000 series consoles, are synonymous with high-end recording. In the past, using a large format console was pretty much the only way to make an album. Now, of course, you can do all of this on a computer, but if you have access to a studio, you might find you prefer working hands-on with the desk, and that's precisely what we're doing with this 4048E, a Different Fur. So this is the SSL 4048. We've got Ableton running on the studio computer, and that gets fed out individually track by track onto all of these individual channels. So you can see we've got our drums laid out over here along with some other stuff, and each of these channels consists of a channel strip with a routing matrix up here at the top, and this is used to send this to different buses. So right now we've got this going to a parallel compression, so this is going to the compressor, and then this is going to a dry channel, and you can just touch these switches in and out. These are kind of the most fiddly part of the mixer and the stuff that we have struggled with the most because of the electromechanical function. Then you have your mic preamp section, which we are not using. We've got a dynamics section, which has a 3-knob compressor. There's a noise gate as well, and you can pull the release knob for a fast attack mode, but there is no direct attack timing adjustment on that compressor. And then to activate the compressor, of course, you have to toggle it in. Everything on this mixer basically can be bypassed, including the filters and the EQ. The EQ section is really nice. You have high pass and low pass filters here, as well as a treble, a high mid frequency, low mid frequency, and low frequency EQ that can be turned into a bell or a shelf. And then again, the equalizer has to be put in or out, depending on whether you want it before or after the dynamics, or whether you are just monitoring it. After that, there are a bunch of Qs and sends, and so we have, for example, Q1 here is feeding the input of our sidechain compressor, and that is over here by the patch bay. We'll look at that in a second. After that, we have the mini fader, which can be assigned to anything. You would usually use this for like a headphone mix or something. We are using the mini faders over here to control the reverb sends, because it's much easier to see when you're standing back the position of the mini fader rather than the position of one of these tiny little send knobs. And then finally you have this float and direct control, and this controls whether or not the output of the fader goes to the routing matrix up at the top or to the master output at the center. For most of these channels we have them floated, and they are going to a bus so that we have more direct access and can control the levels of the channel without having to walk all the way over to the end of the mixer. Here on the right side, we have the patch bay, which is an absolute mess, but that's what it's made for, and it's much easier to have everything centralized rather than trying to run cables all the way across the studio. And so we've got a bunch of subgroups set up, and we are essentially bussing all of the drums together through a compressor. We are doing some equalization on our bass channel, and these little patch cables are TT size cables. They're somewhere between 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch, but they are very handy because they are easy to get in and out, and they are the same size as old telephone patch bays. For sidechain compression, we are using this FMR really nice compressor, which I brought from home because nothing is configured for sidechain stuff here, but it is an analog compressor with digital control. I might do a teardown of this later. It works really well as a sidechain because it is a very sort of natural, transparent sounding compressor. Over here on the Outboard Rack, we have some amazing stuff. Primarily, we are using this distressor, which is tracking all of the drums, and it really does a lot of work on this nuke setting, which I really like because you can have it in essentially a dry-wet configuration on the board, and you just mix in as much of this totally over-compressed signal as you like. and then as we adjust the ratio, we bring in different amounts of compression. Over here we have the lovely Summit Audio, which is a Pultec clone. Basically we're using this for a little bit of bass boost. And then cut at the same frequency, which gives you kind of a nice mid-range scoop. And the nice thing about this outboard gear is that you can push the filters and equalizers a lot more aggressively than you could with a digital EQ. And that is patched into the Culture Vulture, which we're not using at the moment, but this has a wonderful kind of warm, overdriven vacuum tube distortion sound to it. Right here in the master section, we have the monitor matrix, which lets us toggle on and off different sets of speakers. So we're listening on our big main array speakers. And then we can toggle in the mix cubes here, the Oratones. And then we can turn on the big barefoot monitors on the outside, or the classic Yamaha NS10s. And it's great having all of these different monitoring capabilities because they each sort of emphasize different frequency bands and let you hear a different part of the mix more clearly. And then finally on the master section here we have our bus compressor, which we can use to trigger some really aggressive or more likely just some really mild bus compression to kind of glue the whole mix together. Well, thanks so much for taking a look at this beautiful old console and listening to some disco music on it. We're very excited about the sound of this record. It is going to be coming out soon. Soon-ish. In the meantime, you should head over to Instagram.com/dialectics.
Spelled with 2 X's on the end.
We'll put the logo so you can see it on the screen. 2 X's.
That'll be instructive. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have a TikTok. Who knows?
You will never know if this made it into the Final Cut or not. We'll probably also be on YouTube as well, so click the link down below or up here in the top, wherever it ends up being. Most of our music is recorded with live modular synths, so if you want to see how this music is made, click on through and check it out. I really hope you enjoyed this look at a beautiful console, mixing some electronic music on analog equipment. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you next time. I feel like the 2 X's we gotta throw out like execute.